Well, hello everyone. Good evening. I'm so excited to be here with my buddy TC. We will be talking all things Record Store Day, Black Friday, which is very, very exciting because that is one of my favorite days of the whole year to get to shop vinyl and talk about cool things that are coming out this year for Record Store Day, Black Friday. So if you're into vinyl, this is definitely the show you want to be a part of. Stick around. We're going to be talking about some of our favorite releases that are coming out, some things we're noticing in prices, definitely with some big price increases in the jazz records and some other great stuff that
Yep.
all pertain to Record Store Day Black Friday. So that will be a lot of fun. And welcome to UTC. I'm so glad you're tuning in with us tonight.
I'm happy to be here as always. We always like hang out with different stuff because we're both into vinyl. Different eras. You like your doo-wop and I like pop, but it still works.
But in a way, TC, we're both sort of into the odd section of music, so to speak.
Yes.
Yeah. I
Compared to
mean,
the rest of my community and the vinyl community,
right.
yes. Everybody over there's heavy metal and classic rock and
And yeah.
prog and jazz, and I'm here. I am listening to ABBA and the Carpenters and pop stuff. So it's completely different.
And I like my 50s and 60s doo-wop and
Yep.
rhythm and blues stuff, and that doesn't get a lot of talk in the vinyl community, so it's kind of fun to mash up our love of different music and bring that here for all of you guys who are coming in from the VC and just anyone that loves music, because that's the great thing is there's so many different types of music that get released for Record Store Day that you get a chance to really shop what you want, and there's so much to choose from every year. It's a lot of fun to look at the list and then go shop local and support your record stores, which is a lot of fun.
Yep. Very, very cool.
We got a couple of people tuning in tonight in our chat. So, welcome, Myra, Buying Space. We're so glad you're here. Tim is coming all the way in from Canada.
Hi,
Thank you.
Tim.
Yes, this hat is a lot of fun. And of course, I got to wear my music note brooch anytime we're talking records or music. And Sheila is tuning in. So, welcome, welcome. And Sherry Edwards is here. So, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I know there's so much happening in all of the communities at any one given time, but we're glad that all of you are coming in today. And if you aren't able to make it, just go ahead and share this with your friends because you can always watch the replay. That's the great thing. It will always be around on YouTube. And welcome, Mom Knows Treasures. We're glad you're tuning in as well. So thank you so much, everybody. We're glad to hear you. And of course, if you've got any questions throughout the show tonight, just drop them down in the comments down below. We'd love to answer them. So, TC, for all of the people coming in from our vintage community here on my channel, could you sort of explain what Record Store Day is and why that's such a big deal to us vinyl nerds?
Record Store Day is celebrating the survival of record stores. Basically, it started as something to help pump their business, and now it's become a collector's holiday. There's usually one in April, and maybe a second drop in June, and then a Black Friday drop. And when I say drop, they are dropping titles that are both exclusive to Record Store Day and limited numbers, and you need to shop them in order to get them, because if you wait till the secondary market, you're going to be paying through the nose for most of it.
Yep.
Most of what I got last year at the 2021 Record Store Days for regular sale price of $34 is now going for $250, $300 on Discogs. So it's kind of nuts.
It is. You got to get the records on that day. Otherwise, you're probably not going to find them. A lot of them are dropped in limited quantities, as TC said. And there's a couple that I'm hoping to get that I think only have like 3,000 or less copies. I don't know if that's worldwide or US, but still a pretty limited amount in the world of records. And TC, I know, has some that even have a more limited number. So
Yeah, I've got a couple.
you got to get these, and particularly if they're Record Store Day exclusives, meaning that they're only going to be available for that day, you want to hop on them. Now, if they're Record Store Day first, you might be able to hope for a repress down the road, but
Yeah.
it's nice to get the limited color variants and all the fun little stuff that comes along with the Record Store Day releases. And it's great just to go hang out with your fellow vinyl friends in the chat. Not in the chat. I keep thinking that we're still living in an online world, but at your local record store, you get to chat with people in the line and hang out with all of those music loving people, which is just always a lot of fun. Or if you're like TC, you can chat with people online and then shop online for your records.
Yeah, I haven't actually done an in-person record store day yet. I've had pretty good luck too. I've only missed a couple of things, and some stuff I've deliberately skipped because of pricing issues. So, but I've had really good luck since I started doing it again in 2020. So we'll see.
We'll see. And it's always a gamble whether you're going to get what you want. For me,
Yep.
I shop in person. I love the in person, physical trek to the record store. But the thing with that is you never know if you're going to be first in line or like fifth in line, and maybe they only have one copy of what you want. And shoot, by the time you're fifth in line, you've missed it. I'm pretty lucky here, though, because I will say I think a lot of people really like the jazz and the classic rock and roll. So all of the kind of 50s and 60s stuff, unless it's a main staple like maybe Chuck Berry, it doesn't seem to get a lot of hype. And I'm usually pretty lucky in getting what I want here. But I shouldn't jinx myself because, well, I may not get what I want, but we'll see. It's always fun going early, camping out for several hours in front of the store and trying to get what you want. I love when I'm sitting outside and people walk by that have no clue it's record store day or have no idea why we're there. And they walk by and they're like staring at us like we're just a bunch of insane people at like 5 a.m. It's freezing out, like sitting in lawn chairs. I'm like, record store day. They're like, cool. And they just keep on walking.
You guys want to see the loot Katie got at the last record store day? She has a video up from when she was on vacation in St. Louis and went to Vintage Vinyl. And you had quite a bit of fun at that one too. So I'm jealous.
I wish you were there, TC. You would have loved it. That store is just pure heaven for vinyl lovers. And also, if you're ever in the St. Louis area, the Record Exchange is amazing. I mean, it's just packed full of vinyl.
Yeah, that's on my bucket list after seeing it in your video. I've been to St. Louis. I went to a Doctor Who con there back in the late 80s, and I saw the bus station and the airport and the hotel. That was it. So I haven't seen any of the rest of the city. So
well, it'd be worth going back. There's quite
some
record stores there.
Oh yeah, after seeing your videos, I definitely want to go back and I want to stay at Union Station. I love those videos you had on there.
Those were very cool. Now, last year, TC, there was a big push for people to get Taylor Swift. And this year, is that not the case?
This year, they usually have the main ambassador on the main drop, which is the April drop. So there isn't anything super huge expected for the Black Friday one, but the Taylor Swift, as you witnessed, could have caused a few interesting reactions because there was only a limited number and each store got very few copies and people were getting very upset. All the Swifties.
There was a lady physically crying at Vintage Vinyl because there was two people that were camped out the night before at Vintage Vinyl. They had gotten there at 8:00. I drove by and I wanted to see what the line was like because people camp out sometimes all night, and I saw two people. So I went up and asked them and I said, hey, how long have you been here? What do you want? All the kind of stuff you do when you're waiting in line. And they said, well, we got to get the Taylor Swift and we're guaranteed to get it because they have like 5 copies or whatever it was. And we're the first 2 in line. And I was rooting for them to get it because they had waited all that time. It's only fair if you wait all night, and this poor lady, she came, I saw her come in the line and I had already been there 3 hours and she was like in the way back of the line. And I just was thinking, no, there's no way you're going to get Taylor Swift. But she was really excited about it. She had the t-shirt, the jacket, like the whole thing. And they announced over the PA system, I'm sorry, we're sold out of the Taylor Swift. And she physically started crying, screaming, no. I'm like, well, maybe you'll get it someplace else, but
at least you had the discretion not to videotape it.
No, I didn't do that, but I thought, oh my, I people here in Jacksonville at least are very calm and tame, and that's usually my record store day experience. And it was that way at Vintage Vinyl. They did a great job getting people in and moving the line and all that. But that Taylor Swift was such a popular release that, I guess if you waited, and you didn't get it, it was definitely a disappointment.
Now, that was that was playing as you came in the store. They were actually playing the William Tell Overture, were they not?
Yes, I
I
thought
wasn't
that
sure if
was
that was
brilliant.
them or if that was you editing it in. I'm
No,
like, that is so appropriate for people coming in on
it
that
is.
day.
When I was hoping that YouTube wouldn't flag me, and they didn't, which was good because I thought, oh, people have got to hear this. And even if it was going to demonetize me for that video, I
Yeah.
did not care. I'm like, people need to hear this because it was so brilliant the way they did it. It was
It
just
is, yeah. So what do we got here for this time? I know. Oh, okay. What?
We've got a question here coming in from Myra, and this kind of goes along with some of the music you might be picking up for Record Store Day.
Yeah, Myra, I like a little bit of everything. I'm mostly a pop person, but I have my heavy metal favorites, my country favorites. I love 70s R&B, and I'm a big disco fan. I like a little bit of everything. Come over to my my channel, TKR Video Central, sometime and check things out, and you'll see just how crazy eclectic I can be with some of the things I talk about.
Yes, and if you don't follow TC, I have linked him down below, but he has an amazing channel. He puts out a new video every day, just about, and he does these video obscuras, which are just amazing. And if you have not listened to one, you must go check it out. I really enjoy his channel, so I'm hoping all of you guys will hop on over and subscribe to him.
That would be cool. One of our people here, Mom Knows Treasures, is a regular on the Obscuria vaults. I see her every day. She's leaving comments and stuff. I think the $15 sale is great if you have the money, and it's a great way to get in. I've heard they've had some good titles this year. Some people put up videos. I never go to Walmart because they're the closest ones are like 6 miles away, and we don't have a car, so I don't want to waste the Uber just to go to up there for vinyl, because I don't think one of them has vinyl, and the one that's further away has it, but it's more money to get there. So
yeah, our Walmart has a lot of more common, I hate to say common albums, but more pop focused,
yeah,
common in the sense that it's more modern stuff. So if you're looking for some of the cool, like 90s reissues, I've seen them do at some of the Walmarts on different colored vinyl. You're probably not going to find that at our Walmart. But it is always worth checking. Every time I go into Target, I have to go to the vinyl section just to see what they have. I mean, they never have anything that I personally am interested in. But you never know. You might find something cool. So yeah, if you can make it and it's $15 and you find something you like, I say go for it.
our local Target has, I mean, their vinyl is pitiful. They have like one row, half a row with like 2 racks and maybe 10 titles at any given time. So they don't do much at all. Tia Fane, that's Tim, right? You said?
Yes.
Tim, I'm familiar with the name Sharon Red, but I can't place it right off. Can you give me a little more info? Any particular songs? Because the name rings a bell, but we're talking 40 years ago. So when I was a teenager, so I've got a little more info on that could help me out. Up from Canada, one of my favorite disco acts was the Rays. I loved their stuff, and they were terrific. I just getting around to getting all their albums recently. So, but yeah, mid-price turntable. You can get a decent turntable for under 200 if you look around, and it doesn't have to be a crappy Crosley. It can be something else. It can be. I have a Sony. I bought it's a Sony Bluetooth model that I got for 200 about 2 years ago, and it's really great. It's not a big top of the line, but even top of the line ones have come down to where the U-turns and a couple other ones are now ranging 350 to 500. So if you have a little bit extra to spend on that, you want a little bit better song, then then that would be the way to go.
My favorite turntable, and it's one that I've had for a long time, is Fluence. I think the stuff that they come out with is really nice. It's good quality, and you're getting some features on the Fluences that are a little more high end that you typically see on $800, $900 turntables, that you're getting at a better price. And they have different models. I have the RT83, which is a little more expensive, but you can now upgrade. I think the RT85 comes with an acrylic platter, and it comes with the Ortofon 2M Blue, which that cartridge is like a $200 cartridge.
Yeah, that's a nice cartridge.
So it's a pretty good deal for like $400, I think, for all of that. I think is a good package. But they also make the RT80 or RT81. They changed the model numbers, and I think that's around $100 to $200. And it comes in a variety of finishes, and it's got some really nice features and a sturdy plinth as well. It's not chintzy, but the Sony's great. That's the one I recommended to my brother, and he got that, and he loves it. So, it's just I'd say invest a little more in the beginning, so you don't have to, kind of backtrack and go another way when you really get into the hobby.
Yeah. That's right, Katie, isn't it? On LJ's latest, where it's Fluance is FLUANCE.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That was pretty. I thought that was right. Yeah, they're great. I know a lot of people in the VC that have the Fluance turntables because they're lower upper. They're on the low end of the upper range of really nice turntables, and they have great sound, great quality, everything.
Yeah, and you get.
Tim was asking about Sharon Red. Yes, I remember her. I remember that song vaguely. It wasn't a big hit where I was, but I remember seeing it on the chart. And Bette Midler, I'm assuming she was one of the Harlettes. Is that what she called them? I think. Is that right? I'm sorry. I really am not that familiar with her stuff, as strange as it sounds. But I'm not sure if she had anything really major go out except In the Name of Love, which I know is vaguely familiar to me. I'm really sorry, Tim. I wish I could give you more.
I
of
know
an
that
opinion.
song well, but I had no idea that was connected to her. So that would be a very fun little research project after the show's over.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's find out what we're gonna do.
Thank you, Dusty.
Thank you, Dusty.
We're glad to have you.
You had several good titles on your list, as we discussed ahead of time. So what are you going to pick up at Black Friday?
Well, that is a good question, TC, and I'm going to share my screen here. This is on the Record Store Day website, so you can go to recordstoreday.com and you'll see a list of all the releases that they've got. I have several that I'm picking up. Now, I have a total of 5 on my list that I'm pretty excited about. And I know that you can find some of these on vinyl. You can get original presses. In fact, some of these I actually already have on vinyl. And you might say, whoa, then why do you want the Record Store Day? Well, one of the things with some of these older 50s and 60s records is they were played so much that you can't find a copy anymore in good condition. I mean, they're out there, but they're hard to come by. And so I'm thinking on some of these, particularly when I show you the Four Tops and the Supremes, it would just be nice to have a clean copy of these.
Yeah.
So that's sort of where I'm thinking I will pick up some of these other records just to have a clean copy because I really like the record. But the first record up that I'm really excited about is Martha and the Vandellas. I love them. All that good Motown sound. You just can't beat it. And this is one of their great albums called Dance Party. It had Dancing in the Street on it, which I believe this came out in 1965, I think. And that song was number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100 when it was released. So this has some fabulous tracks on it. And I think, let's see, might be just plain black vinyl, but it is on the Elemental label. In fact, everything I'm getting, I think, is on the Elemental label. I've had lots of things come out on the Elemental label before, and I've bought them, and I've never had an issue. So the quality has been really good. I know in the past, some Record Store Day titles have had some issues with quality, but so far I've had luck with Elemental. So that's a great label. There's only 2,500 of these, so I should be able to get a copy. I wouldn't imagine them being particularly popular here, but I'm pretty excited about it. And there's a lot of people that covered some of these songs. Wild One, for sure, was definitely covered many times, and it was originally done by, I'm blanking out. It will come to me. If you guys know in the chat, put it in. That's going to drive me nuts. But great songs on this album. So I'm really looking forward to this Martha and the Vandellas. I think it will be a great pickup. And this is a Record Store Day exclusive, so it'll only be available on Record Store Day. So I'm definitely wanting to pick that up. My next album for the releases that are coming out for Record Store Day is Gladys Knight and the Pips. Now, I do want to mention TC helped me kind of look up some of the prices. I won't know for sure that these are the exact prices, but
Mhm.
I believe Martha and the Vandellas is $25.99. Which isn't bad for a record. This one here, the Gladys Knight and the Pips, will be $24.99. So that, out of all of them, is the cheapest record that I'm looking at. But I feel like the prices for these are really pretty good in my opinion. These are all the original Max recordings from the Max label. This came out originally in 1965. Gladys Knight and the Pips, you just can't beat them. This is a quantity of 3,000, so I should definitely be able to get this record. It is coming out on a heavyweight color vinyl, so I love colored vinyl. I'm one of those people that if I can get a record in a colored variant, I will. I mean, there's no really difference in sound quality between the black and the colored. It really doesn't matter, but it's just the experience of it. And I've always felt that if you're going to get something on Record Store Day, particularly that's special, it's a Record Store Day exclusive, you might as well get it in a colored variant because that's just extra and it's great. So I'm very excited about this. This is, I think it says here, yes, the first reissued copy of this since 1965. And I have this record on original vinyl, but it is very hard to play because it's just not a good copy. So I'm hoping to get something a little nicer. Same with the Smokey Robinson and the Miracles. Actually, I just picked this album up in St. Louis from a record store. I don't believe it was Vintage Vinyl or the Record Exchange. It was another small record store that we discovered. I picked up quite a few Smokey Robinson and the Miracles records. I was very excited to get, but I just can't. The quality is just not great. It's an old record. It's got clicks and pops and scratches, and it's cool to own the original on the Tamala label, but it just doesn't sound as crisp as I think this will sound. So I'm very excited about it. This came out in 1965, and of course, it just has so many hits. This album was #1 on the R&B charts when it was released. So very, very excited about this record here. And then, of course, the classic Supremes album, Where Did Our Love Go? This is Baby Love and a whole bunch of sounds. I mean, this is just classic Motown. You can't beat it. So this came out originally in 1964. This is their second album. And I love the Supremes. Absolutely love it.
Yeah.
And in fact, I have this original album. My religion teacher, I grew up in a small little Catholic school. And all the teachers were so nice that I still keep up with quite a few of them because they just are wonderful people. And she called me one day and said, "Hey, I have a bunch of records I'd like to give to you because I know you like vinyl." So I have her original copy of this album. It's very special to me. But I just, again, would love to have a clean copy of it. So I think that this will be a great pickup. It's a Record Store Day exclusive. All of these are on Elemental, as I mentioned. The quantity is 3,500, so this shouldn't be terrible to get, but I'm very, very excited about this. And I think that this was the highest charting album by an all-female group at the time, which is pretty cool because this just has every song that you could ever want and a classic Motown sound on it. It's just amazing. Of course, Baby Love, everybody knows, but one of my other favorite songs on this album is Come See About Me. Great song. If you've never heard it, go listen to it. It's wonderful. So the Supremes. And then the last album, which I see this album all the time. If I had $1 for every time I've seen this record in a bin, I would be a millionaire. But every time I see it, it's scratched to the point you can't play it, which probably tells you how good the album is, right? Because people then must have played the daylights out of it because it was so good. And the Four Tops are just fantastic. Another great Motown sound. This has I Can't Help Myself, Sugar Pie Honey Bunch on it, a whole bunch of fantastic Four Top songs. This is coming out on Elemental. It is a Record Store Day exclusive, and there's about 3,000 of them available. Now, I just want this again because having a clean copy of something is really nice. And this, of course, has Sugar Pie Honey Bunch, which was number 3 on the Billboard R&B charts when it came out. Fabulous song, just really wonderful. And there's so many great songs on this album. "Darling, I Hum Our Song" is one of my favorites. That's on the B side of this album. I've played this a ton, but it will be really nice just to have some good, clean copies. And I didn't see if this one's coming out on any color. But it says it's the first official reissue in more than 40 years. So that will be nice. Again, Record Store Day exclusive. So these things will only be available on Record Store Day. And like TC mentioned, if you try to get anything after the fact, you're probably going to be paying several $100s, because that's just what record people do after Record Store Day, is they see something that's limited and then they will sell it for tons of money. But those are the things that I'm hoping to get. I think all in, I'll spend probably about $128 for 5 records, which really isn't terrible. So I'm not picking up any box sets or any expensive jazz. So I'm doing pretty well, I think, with my list. But these are the ones I'm hoping to get. If I had to kind of prioritize them, I would say Martha and the Vandellas is definitely a must-have, along with Gladys Knight and the Pips. But we'll see if I can get the other 3. So TC, what are you looking for?
This has been a slow one for me. I actually only have 2 that I really want to get. Let me show them off here. Pull up my screens, as I won't be able. Is that showing okay, Katie? I can't tell.
Yes, I can see it beautifully.
Harry Chapin, Story of a Life, the complete hit singles. Harry, of course, was killed in a car accident in 1981 at the prime of his career. This has all of his big hits on it. Taxi, WOLD, Cats in the Cradle, Sequel, and a few other minor hits on it. It is coming out on Real Gone Music, which is a pretty good label. They've had a few problems here and there on other titles, but never on their Record Store Day titles. And it is limited to 1,400. So that one I'm a bit worried about, because it's a very small amount. The other one is even lower. And that is the second album from San Francisco, Berkeley-based garage pop band, the Rubinoos. Back to the Drawing Board. This was originally released in 1979, and it's your typical garage pop. The best song that they're known for on this album is "I Want to Be Your Boyfriend." It's been recorded by a number of different acts. The Party actually had a hit with it in the 90s. They are right out of the Berkeley College area, and they were on Berserkly Records originally. And I have the OG of all of their stuff, but I love these because they're coming out on colored vinyl in a tribute to the label. This is on Yep Rock Records and limited to 850. So that one's going to be fun to try and find. I did okay last year with the original release of the first album, and it was also a low amount. I think it was even lower at 750, and I did manage to get it. But those are really the only 2 that are absolute must-haves on my list, I can tell you that. I've got other ones that I might be interested in on the side, but nothing definite. You're looking through the list. The other one that really jumped out at me as a possibility, let me go back up to the top of the list here, is the Eric Burdon and War Complete Vinyl Collection, which is a set of all 4 of their albums together. And I figure I bought the War box set last Record Store Day last year. I might as well get this one because this was their early days with Eric Burdon, who is, I believe, the lead singer of the Animals originally. And they're putting them all out on different colored vinyl and in a nice box. And so I may end up getting that one as well. We'll see what happens.
That's a nice box set there.
Yep.
So what are the prices looking like for box sets this year?
Well, there's only a few of them that I've noticed that I paid attention to. The Eric Burdon and War is running $79.99 according to bullmoose.com.
And how many records are you getting in that set?
In that set, there's 4.
That's
there's 4. They're all 4 of their albums. And then there was the Fleetwood Mac, who is coming out with the complete alternative collection. They've been doing these alternate take albums over the last few years. I picked up the Rumors one a couple of years ago. Well, now they're putting out a box set of them. I think there's 7 discs, and it's running on LP. It is running $174.99, and on CD it's running $62.99. So
That is
a
definitely
little bit
a
out of my
better
price
price.
range,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
And some of these box sets, I mean, you have to realize that maybe you're getting like 5 or 6 albums, so it
Yeah,
seems expensive, but if you divide it, up, it's going to be about $25 or so an album, which isn't
which is an
terrible.
average price right now. Yeah, the
Right.
War box set I bought last year was 120, and it has all 5 of their albums. The only thing it doesn't have is the greatest hits album, and I already have that. So, it's
Perfect.
terrific to get everything in there. And they were all in great, really nice 180-gram colored vinyl and recreations of all the covers and all the notes, and it's really great when you get that kind of thing. The only thing you can find at a record store day or anytime that's new under 20 these days is generally 12-inch singles and 7-inch singles.
Mhm.
There's some 12-inch singles coming out that for record store day that are under 20. The Christmas stuff, there's a reissue of the David Bowie, Bing Crosby, Little Drummer Boy, Peace on Earth that's coming out at $17.99, and the Rick Springfield Jesse's Girl remixes is coming out at $19.99, and the Christmas song from Dee Snider and Lizzie Hale, which I'm sure all the rockers are going to want, is $16.99, and it's an exclusive too. So that's definitely, they have different prices all over the place.
They really do. You just have to kind of gauge what you want and
Yep.
look them up online and see what, the going rate might be. And of course, every record store is probably going to be slightly different by $1 or $2.
Yeah, they can
It's
set
great.
their own prices. I think Bomus has, which is a chain that's mostly in Maine and Vermont, and I believe there's some in Canada also. They are usually run about $1 above what's suggested price, so that's not too bad. But other places have that, they can gouge you. Occasionally, you'll find one that's raised at $4 or $5, which stinks.
And what I have noticed, talking about prices, TC, is that the jazz records have gone up exponentially. It is crazy how much some of these jazz releases are going for. And I know a lot of them are incredibly good quality, and I hear so many good things. I'm not into jazz myself, but I've got a lot of jazz friends. But even some of them are saying, oh my gosh, I just can't believe the prices on these jazz albums.
Yeah, there's 2 albums by Ahmad Jamal coming out. I forget which label is handling them. It's one of the jazz specialty labels. They're both 2 record sets, and they're both retailing at $56.99. And I'm like, that's 30, almost $30 a disc. And it's like, I'm sure the jazz people will love them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I drew the line last year with the 2 record sets from Tiny Tim and Sheena Easton, which I felt both of those were retailed at $45 or $46.99, and I thought that was a bit high for what you were getting, because you weren't getting a lot of songs, and even though it was on 2 records, and that. I always look at the number of songs too, like the Elton John. I didn't go for that. I think you did. Did you not?
I did. I got that.
Tom Bell sessions. You're paying
excellent.
$5 a song on that, and that seems a bit high to me. But it's a great album to have too. I just didn't want to go because I have most of the singles from it. So.
And I don't have any of the singles, and I'm a huge Elton John fan. So again, that's where they, can get the person that's interested in the album, as
Yeah.
like, oh, if you really want this or you love this artist, you'll pay anything for the most part. I will say I did get the Stolzer's album, Sam Cooke, and it was $55, but it had 3 discs, and then the amount of what we would call in the vintage community ephemera,
Right.
I thought was incredibly worth the $55, because the packaging alone was amazing. And then you got all the reproduction posters and concert tickets and letters. I mean, while you were listening to the album, you could read all this stuff. And then there was a thick booklet that came with it. And so I think packaging too, for me, really matters, along with the price. If they're going to raise the price up a little bit, I kind of expect more of a premium packaging, whether that be a cool color variant that's exclusive to Record Store Day or extra packaging. I really don't care for records that are a little more overpriced and it's just a standard plain non 180 gram vinyl. To
Yeah.
me, that's just sort of a waste, in my opinion, you know?
Yeah, I would agree. I think that the packaging is everything, although sometimes they can go overboard. There's a brand new Guns N' Roses set being offered, not Record Store Day. I think it came out at the end, or is coming out sometime this month, but not Record Store Day. And there, it's 7 albums and some ephemera, but they're asking $500 for it, and
That's
people are
insane.
really balking at that price, because Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 have never gone out of print on CD. You can still get them on CD, and they're rare to find on albums. But some people just haven't liked the extras they're getting. So I mean, I can understand that's a bit much for
That's a bit
that.
much.
And then they just announced a Paul McCartney singles set that Paul is putting together of all of his singles over his solo career. And the Beatles fans are going nuts to try and get it, but they're charging $779 for that thing. And I'm like,
How
okay.
many?
I mean,
And
I think it comes with 40 some singles, but you get a case, like a wood case with it. And so that's something, but I'm like, wow, I could never afford something like that.
no,
I just recently bit the bullet and spent almost $300 on an upcoming Def Leppard book, which I've never spent that much on anything before. But I couldn't resist, because it's like almost 1,000 pages and it's full of stories and pictures, and the guys wrote it themselves, and it's leather bound, and it doesn't come out till next spring, but I can't wait to get a hold of it. It's going to be nice.
well, and that kind of thing is nice. I mean, for what you're getting, the Def Leppard book and all the stories and the things. But
Yeah.
when you talk about just adding a wooden case,
Yeah.
to me, that's not equally the same. You know, and that's just my opinion. But I have noticed, I think prices over time with records today have increased. And I think that, of course, like we talked about, folks at Record Store Day know that, you know, people will pay for it, particularly jazz fans, because they love jazz and
Yep.
it's so hot right now. Everyone's talking about jazz, into jazz. It's very big in our record community. And there's a lot of great titles that are coming out. And, you know, some of those jazz albums are just really hard to find an original
Hmm.
press of, and they can be hundreds of dollars if you do find them. So, I mean, you know, that's something also to keep in mind. But I do think the prices are going up a little bit. But that's everywhere in the world right now, too.
Yeah, I think another thing that I think is really good is, although the prices have come up a little bit on some stuff, quality control has gotten better.
Yes.
But in 2020, there were a lot of problems because they had pressed stuff before the pandemic, and they had to sit around for extra months,
The
and
warping.
yeah, they had warping problems.
Ooh.
They had all kinds of a couple of them were actually pressed off center because of the rush, and so they've been really careful, because there was huge outcry, not surprisingly, from the people who collect, and they've been cracking down on quality control. So I don't think that this time we'll have any problems, any major problems with that. The one thing that I'm always aware of, I got aware of this thanks to Melinda Murphy, who is a wonderful
Oh, she's great.
VC member. Anything with colored vinyl that has metallic flecks in it, those usually cause pops and
Yep.
and such, and so I kind of avoid those, and I hope they don't thankfully make too many of those. But I would definitely, after hearing her warning about it, I won't spend money on something like that, because you're not really going to get the full quality that you could. And if they're going to have problems with the quality doing that, they should come up with something else, or a different variant or
Mhm.
something.
And that's really the only thing out of all the colored vinyl I've ever heard of with colored vinyl having issues. You know, I know some people
Oh
say that
yeah.
colored vinyl is horrible, and it really isn't, but there is issues with the colored vinyl that has the flex. And I have heard that not only from Melinda Murphy, but several other people within the
Yeah.
VC.
Yeah.
And that's a very valid concern. I know I got a record. I don't remember. I know it was a Chuck Berry record, and it was on Liberation Hall, and that record was warped. And the other thing that drove me nuts, and I'm not much of an audiophile, I mean, because, you know, I listen to vintage music from the 50s, and a lot of the records that I find, particularly if it's a rare doo-wop group, I mean, the quality is not great. So I'm pretty used to the clicks, the pops, the static. But this record drove me crazy because it was a good record. The songs were great. The reissue was nice. But in between every song, there was a static and a click, like an audible that would go around and go around
Uh,
until the next song would play, and it drove me bananas. And that was just part of the quality control issue that I think a lot of people were having. Um, and I'm glad to see that they're working on getting that fixed. But the pressing plants, like TC said, were backed up for a long time.
yeah,
I can't remember the name of the artist, but she ordered some insane amount of records.
Adele.
Adele,
Oh,
yeah,
excuse me. We found out last week from her it's actually Adele, not
yes,
Adele.
okay. So we've all learned something here tonight, which is good. But yes, that backed up the pressing plans for sure.
Absolutely. And of course, I also wonder, and we've had this discussion last time we had this because there was another similar title in the springtime. There is a My Little Pony album coming out on Record Store Day. And while I
Why?
understand that there are huge fans and bronies out there that will probably pick it up, it just never surprises. It always surprises me when there are these kids titles coming out on Record Store Day because you wouldn't think they would move that many of them. But
Yeah.
on My Little Pony, it might be completely wrong because all the bronies will want it. So
Yeah, I mean, there's a fandom there that might come out of the woodwork for that particular record that maybe don't even collect vinyl, but just have to have this add to their collection. But I do see things, and last year they got a ton of that one particular kids record. I can't think of the exact title of it right now, but our record store got a lot of it, and I saw it still sitting there like months later when I came back to shop for records. And I thought, well, I don't know why. I mean, I understand that maybe they think parents could get their kids into records or it could be a family hobby or something, maybe. But I can't imagine that being a big popular pickup, to be honest. And the price of it was fairly high for a single. So that's just my kind of opinion. It's like, why is that on the list?
yeah, oh, that's what it was. It was Strawberry Shortcake, wasn't it?
Yes, it was Strawberry Shortcake.
Yeah, thank you, Mom. There was also they've made some questionable choices with releases in the last year. Last year, they released a 180-gram vinyl version of Sean Cassidy's final album, Wasp, because it was produced by Todd Rundgren, and they were thinking, oh, hey, all the Todd Rundgren fans are going to want to buy this. The stores that bought that are stuck with it. It did not move at all. And it's not that it's a terrible album. I have the OG, but it's not your typical Sean Cassidy. If you're used to do Ron and you turn him on doing this kind of neo-punk stuff with Todd Rundgren, it's going to throw you completely off. And I feel sorry for the stores that got stuck with it because they're going to be stuck with it for years, you know?
Yeah. And I'm also kind of glad to see that this year, at least this drop, there aren't as many picture discs because nothing against picture discs, but I felt like there was so many of them.
Yeah.
And
I only saw 2 this time, which is
yeah,
interesting.
they don't sound that great. And yes, if you're a picture disc collector and you want to frame them or do something with them, that's awesome. But in my opinion, I have a Rocky Horror Picture Show limited edition 1970s picture disc. It's really cool. And I might put it on just to watch it spin at Halloween, but it doesn't sound good. And so I have just a standard Rocky Horror Picture Show on red vinyl that's great that I always listen to. So I'm glad to see that they're kind of putting a lot less of those out and doing just kind of more standard vinyl for people that really just want the standard vinyl and not the picture disc. Because they put a lot of heavy hitters last year on this last drop on picture discs. And I thought, who wants that?
They have collectors that still get them. And nowadays, they're not nearly as bad as they were back when that Rocky Horror came out, or I had a Story of Star Wars album that was just terrible, that I don't even think I still have. But the quality's better, but they're still not as good as a straight black vinyl or even colored vinyl or even a variant vinyl. Those are still way superior sound of the picture disc. This time, I only remember 2, and I can't remember the first one. I know one is Olivia Newton-John's Physical, and I don't remember what the other one is, but there's not only 2 or 3 at the most this time. And yet last April, There was a Def Leppard, which I didn't buy, even though I'm a huge fan. There was Ronnie James Dio. There was Ozzy Osbourne. They were all on picture disc. And I'm like, why? People are not going to buy them. And they didn't for the most part. So,
Yeah. Yeah, they kind of sat there too at our record store. Welcome to you, Dawn.
hey, Don.
Welcome in the chat. I love your comment here. And we had a comment earlier from TC and I missed it, but he's asking, do scratched albums damage the needle? And that's a really good question.
They can. It's not likely. You're more likely to do damage to the needle if the needle is like not aligned properly, or if it's jumping. The scratches are not gonna, it's just gonna pop really bad, and it could skip also. It shouldn't do any damage if it's well taken care of. But if it can knock it out of alignment in the most severe cases, so you should check it after that if it's a really bad scratch.
Yep, and check the needle too. I saw this on it might have been Too Many Records Matt's channel. I'm not sure which channel I saw this on, but he was talking about how the needle got out of alignment.
I remember that one. Yeah.
And I went and checked my needle right away because I'm like, I never thought to do that, but it makes sense because if it's out of alignment, it could damage the grooves of all your records. So
that's exactly what happened to me. I had a misaligned needle on one of my kiddie players when I was little. So I have a whole collection of 45s that when you try to play them now, because they were scratched out by a bad needle. And I don't want that to happen to any of my current stuff.
No,
too expensive anymore.
Yeah, records are not $1.99 anymore. Like
no.
My mom remembers Let It Be came out, and she called up my grandfather from at work and said, "Could you stop by Schibelbein's Music on the way home?" This was in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, and pick up this record. And I want to say it was 15 cents on sale. Maybe it was a 45. And of course, Grandpa went and picked it up for her and brought it home, and she loved it. And my grandma wasn't quite sure about all that new music yet, but Mom loved it. And I just remember her telling me about the price and thinking, wow, you can't get records for that anymore.
No, when I first started buying records, 45s, they were 69 cents each for the current stuff, and you could get cutouts like 6 or 8 for $1. And that's how most of my collection got built up for the first few years of my kiddie obsession with music. And then when I got into my teenage years, I got a lot more serious, and they were still relatively cheap, especially if you belong to Columbia House, where you could get them for $1.99 a piece.
Everybody probably still owes money to Columbia House.
You've been watching Frank, haven't you, at Channel 33? He did the same thing.
Yep. My dad got stuff from Columbia House, and he also got all those mail-in records,
Mm-hmm. Columbia House, RCA. I belonged to all of them at various times and got my big shipment, and then ordered my one, and then quit, and then waited 6 months and did it again. And,
Yep. Gone are the days of less expensive vinyl, but it's still fun getting out there and supporting your record stores. And one of the best things to me about Record Store Day, besides getting some of the stuff that you're interested in for your own collections, is just getting to talk with fellow music lovers in the chat while you're waiting. Because, I'm outside probably 4 hours waiting before the store opens. You have to be if you want to get what you want. And it's just neat to chat music with people in the line, because it doesn't matter what type of music you like or, what albums you're getting. It doesn't divide you. It just sort of brings you together because everybody loves music and can chat music for hours, which is fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Everybody, it's like, although I don't go, like I said, I do all my mail order. I still am always watching live chats on Record Store Day, and people who are, the N Groove has a live cam on every Record Store Day. And the kind of craziness that goes on. I think he's in Phoenix, is he not? He's in Arizona. I'm not sure which city. So. And he is, it's nuts.
My friends Jamie and Blake from Mid-Century Wasted. Blake's my jazz buddy. He's really into jazz, and he's got some incredible new speakers right now. I don't know if it's on his page, but if you message him, the real Blake Dorman on Instagram. He'll send you a video of the killer speakers he just got. But anyway, they were at the End Groove. They went out to visit Mike. And of course, I was watching the live cam of them going through the line. And I don't know if you saw TC, but that guy that was in front of them, he was buying, he must have been a reseller. I mean, his stack was like, he had like stacks like this high.
Mhm.
The price, the guy whispered the price. And of course, everyone had been watching him like for the whole stream, was like, no, you didn't share the price. It had to be in the thousands
Ugh.
of I mean, it was insane the stuff this guy was getting.
Yeah, I don't. That seems to be, some people, some store. It all depends on where you buy. Like where I go when I've been at, at live stuff, most of the places around here limit it to one copy per person.
Which is nice.
And I wish they'd do that at some of the bigger places, but they don't. And then you end up with, this is why the Hail Satin by the DGs, which was the Foo Fighters, the day it was on sale, you could get it for $29.99 at your local record store for Record Store Day. Before the mail order time hit at 1 p.m., it was already selling on Discogs for $250.
Mhm.
And that's just ridiculous. That's what drives prices up.
Yep. I saw after I bought Sam Cooke and the Soul Stirrers, that was $55. That was the most expensive record I've ever bought for Record Store Day. But I went online looking afterwards, and it was already listed for like $400. I'm like, this is
Wow.
nuts. I mean, I know it was really limited and somewhat hard to get. Our store only got one, and I was the first person in line to get it. But I mean,
Yay!
yeah, that was worth me getting up at 5 a.m. to wait in line to get that record.
The only thing I missed out on that I was kind of ticked about because I knew I was going to, it was too limited. They re-released Philip Glass's Koyaanisqatsi score in 2020 and the last drop, and there was only 650 copies of it, and of course nobody had it. And immediately before the 1 o'clock deadline when they could start selling online, it was on Discogs for $200. And I'm like, this is why I didn't have a chance to get it in the first place, because I wasn't willing to go out, number one, because it was still pandemic time and really bad at that point. And number two, you're not giving the honest reseller a chance to sell it at retail, which was, I think, $42.99, which I would have paid for because I love that music and I love that movie. So it would have been really great to have, but you still can't get it for less than 125 on Discogs. So that's really sad.
It's interesting though, because last drop I was at, let's see, no, it was the drop before that, so it would have been 2020 drop. I was looking at Tiger Records, which is where I normally go for Record Store Day. And I've been to other record stores in the past, but Tiger is nice because they open up at, I think, 8 a.m. So you can kind of go early to them. And then some of the other record stores that open later, they have sales like just on their regular vinyl in the bin. So then you can kind of filter to the other record stores, which is great. The main record store in town, the line's already formed down the block at like 7 p.m. the night before. And I'm just not waiting downtown by myself in line all night. No, thank you. So I always go to Tiger Records, which is great. But my friend Blake, who I just told you about, he called me and he said, I can't get this one jazz title. And can you see if you can find it? And I had just left Tiger Records, so I couldn't get it there. And so I thought, okay, I'll go over to Eraser Records because they open at noon. Well, the rush was over. People had already gone in. They had like 2 of them left in the bins. And the guy's like, this shocked me. I thought this would sell. And it didn't. And I bought one of them and mailed them out to Blake, which was cool. So like some areas, stuff is more popular, than other areas.
Yeah. Well, they have regional ones too, where they're only available in certain regions.
True.
I know they had the Lemonheads were available mostly in our neck of the woods because they're from up here when they had them a couple of years ago. And they're doing the same thing with Steve Forbert this time, where it's a regional one concentrated toward the Southwest or Southeast. And that's just weird because he's from Jersey. And I don't know. It all depends. It just depends on the luck of the draw.
Yep, it does. But it's always fun to see, like, will I get this or will I not?
Exactly. Don's right about that too. Is you will hear the damage for sure talking about needles if you
Yep,
damage it. Yeah,
yep.
absolutely. We've actually we talk about tech stuff sometime on our show over on TKR Video Central and Two Hip Chicks of Finding Your Music Mojo, which you can next see on Don's channel, Two Hip Chicks, next Monday night. We'll be there talking about technical stuff and who knows what else.
And definitely check that show out. I've been a guest. It was wonderful to be on with you, Don and TC. And of course, they've got some great guests every week, great chat. It's definitely worth it. A
We
really wonderful show. So I'll link that down in the show notes below if you're not familiar with Don's channel and you haven't checked that out.
we definitely enjoyed having you on because I know virtually nothing about all those doo-wop groups. I know some of the music, but you're so extensively knowledgeable about the backgrounds and where they came from, everything. It's so very cool to listen to you talk about them because you can just see your smile light up the room. So it's always good.
Well, it's just such a neat type of music,
Yeah.
and nothing against classic rock or jazz. I mean, there's talent in every genre of music for sure, and every musician has their own special spin that they put onto the music. But to me, there's just nothing like four guys on the street corner. I mean, you think about, to me, that's raw talent. Now everything's all computerized, and there's a lot of talent and skill that is involved in creating some of that music. And there's nothing wrong with it, but it's just so neat to me to hear just that raw voice of like just a couple of guys
Yeah.
harmonizing on the corner making music. And then of course when you get into the novelty stuff of the 50s, that fascinates me too, because who had the brain to come up with some of this, like, screaming ball at Dracula Hall songs, where you're talking about drinking Dracula's blood, and you're thinking, man, for the 50s, it's just interesting. I mean, the stuff is just cool. So I love it. It's just a
Yeah.
sound, like no other. And of course, you can see how it influenced, rock and all the other genres of music, which is just cool.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it's still around. I mean, you have other bands that aren't quite doo-wop, but they continue to do the sound, and modern bands have done doo-wop albums like New Edition did Under the Blue Moon, and All for One had that same kind of sound. Timothy B. Schmidt did a great cover of So Much in Love where he was doing all the vocals. He overdubbed himself doing all the parts. And there's a great tribute to those kind of bands, a song called Street Corner Serenade put out by Wet Willie in 1977. Really great song paying tribute to the doo-wop street corner bands, and it was my real first introduction into some of those. So,
which is wonderful. And there's some songs from the 70s that a lot of artists covered from the 50s, and I was talking to someone the other day and they said, oh, don't you know that song Constantinople? And I'm like, yeah, this group did it. And they're like, no. Like, the 70s group did it first. I'm like, yes, they did do it, and they did a very popular cover. But I'm like, the original was done and they had never heard the original before, which is so fascinating.
I noticed a lot of the stuff that you've brought up that I didn't know were remakes either by some of the doo-wop bands that you listen to. It's just like how people don't realize that Joan Jett's I Love Rock and Roll is a cover.
Oh, yeah. Most people don't know that.
It's from the Arrows, an Australian band that recorded it a year or two earlier. And people don't think of that because it was never a hit here. So, oh, well, out of sight, out of mind, I think is what most people would do.
And it's interesting too, bringing up that point, is how many songs, were done originally by a group that really didn't take off. And then another group does it. And that happens a lot within the 50s, era of doo-wop and early rockabilly stuff. It takes off and becomes super popular. Everybody thinks Hound Dog is originally Elvis, and yes, Elvis did it, but it's a cover from an older blues artist.
Yep.
So I mean, it's pretty cool to kind of see the progress of music and how people kind of get influenced from another group or another time period.
Yeah, and back in that day, they all also pretty much had every band record every song and see, where it landed. Even in the 70s and 60s, they had that going on in the early 70s and 60s, where you had every single different crooner doing the same 8 songs, and who would have a hit with it? Would it be Andy Williams or Perry Como or Tony Bennett? Or they were all recording their own versions, and so they ended up competing. So that's how come I have so many copies of certain songs in my collection, because everybody did it.
And speaking of Tony Bennett, doesn't Tony Bennett and Lady Gaga have a record store they release coming out? I'm not personally looking forward to that.
They do. The second album that they did together is coming out on Record Store Day, Black Friday. 2-disc set. It is selling at $53.99. And I don't know whether any of that's going to charity or not, because Tony's is not well anymore. And so they might be doing something with that. I don't know, but that's an awfully high price point for a 2-record set.
Yeah.
I mean, the Watchmen set is only the Watchmen soundtrack from Tyler Bates is only $49.99, and it's 3 discs. So there you're getting a much better value than you would on anything else.
But I think the Lady Gaga fans are going to come out and possibly pick that up. So, I mean, there might be some people that really want that album. What TC and I were talking about last night, I like Tony Bennett fine. He's definitely an iconic singer, but I am more of an Andy Williams fan.
Me too.
And I hate to say that for all the Tony Bennett fans out there that are probably typing in the comments, no. But I love Andy Williams, but that's what I grew up hearing through my grandparents and my dad, every Christmas, Andy Williams and Dean Martin and all the, Frank Sinatra stuff. So that to me is kind of where my heart lies with vintage music.
Yeah, I think me too when it comes to crooners.
Well, TC, this has been so much fun. It has been a great chat on Record Store Day. Thank you to everyone that came out and supported us in the comments, and we're here listening. And of course, share this episode with all of your friends and record lovers in your life. And I hope you guys get what you want for Record Store Day too. Leave a comment down below and let us know what you're looking to pick up off the list. I'd love to hear it. TC, any closing comments for you?
No, just have a good Record Store Black Friday, Record Store Day Black Friday. Hope it makes Black Friday a little brighter for everybody, because everybody knows Black Friday is craziness. So of course we have to do Record Store Day on Black Friday. So there you go. It fits right in.
Well, and the nice thing about Record Store Day, at least that I've found for Black Friday, is, you see some of the news reports of like people trampling each other for TVs or whatnot. That's never the case with the Record Store Days. I mean, people might get upset that they don't get something, but I've never been to a Record Store Day where people aren't friendly. In fact, every Record Store Day to date, I have talked to someone in the line who was like, oh, yeah, I'm not looking for what you're looking for. And so they'll actually help me. Like when we go in, if there's someone in front of me that knows like I'm looking for Chuck Berry or, whatever it is, and they find it, I've had people hand it to me. They're like, here. And I'll do the same for them. Like, people are really nice, and like most of the stores at least I've found have been super great at keeping it organized. And like TC said, they try to limit one record of a particular title per person. So I mean, you can get as many records as you want, but they're not going to let you buy all the Lady Gaga or all the whatever, which I think is nice. I mean, they really do try to make it. And vintage vinyl, man, talk about a red carpet event. They had people handing out coffee and like alcohol at like 10 in the morning. I'm like, this is great.
And that wonderful William Tell overture to enter the store too. That was just awesome.
Yeah, that was great.
If you haven't seen it, guys, go see Katie's St. Louis video with that, because it's great. It was a great job she did on that stuff.
Well, definitely we'll have to get together, TC, and maybe plan a trip to St. Louis and do Record Day.
Oh, if we both go to the Record Exchange, we'll never get out of there.
Well, I'll never get that store. Oh my gosh, I got so many rare 50s stuff that just, I was in heaven. Man, that place was amazing. I bought like 3 original Hank Williams albums on King. It was great.
That's good. Yeah, I'd go nuts in that place.
Yep. Or what did I say? Hank Williams? That's not
Yeah.
right. Hank Williams and the Zodiacs? I don't know. It was the no,
Maurice Williams,
Murray, no, Hank Ballard and the Midnighters.
Hank
There we go.
Ballard.
I'll get it right eventually. Had three Hank Ballard and the Midnighters on King, which that was pretty cool. And they had the Crystals. That's a hard to find record. The
Yeah.
Crystals Uptown. That was cool to see that in person. But it was, I think, $150 if I'm remembering right. It was an original press, but it was in rough shape. So I couldn't get that, but I was marveling at the fact I got to hold it.
I definitely wouldn't have spent that much on something I could barely listen to, for sure.
Yeah, no, but it was a good store. We would have just spent hours in there.
I'll get out there one of these days.
One day. Well, thank you all again for tuning in. Make sure you go subscribe to TC. He is fantastic. He's got great content. Dawn, also Two Hip Chicks. They've got a great channel. They do Chick Chat, and then they also do the show with TC, Finding Your Music Mojo. So make sure you check that out as well. And happy Record Store Day, Black Friday. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. And I hope I will see you very soon. I do have a video coming out tomorrow at 7 o'clock. It is a premiere. It will be airing at I said 7 on my channel. So make sure you check that out. That's coming from my Tennessee. Geez, I'm just not with it tonight. Texas trip. So make sure you follow that. It will be really fun tomorrow, coming out at 7. So I hope to see you in the chat there and see you around YouTube. Thank you guys and have a wonderful night and stay in, stay safe, and binge YouTube. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.